All right, everyone, welcome to a longer than normal, I'm sure, weekly market wrap up because it's also a monthly market wrap up. We have both new monthly candles and new weekly candles to go through. If you're new here, welcome. Please like, subscribe, all that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through stocks, crypto, Forex, individual names that I'm watching in the next week and break down what I'm seeing in the charts. And maybe you guys agree, maybe you disagree. But again, leave all of that in the comments down below. Make sure you're going over to StatsEdgeTrading.com. I have a free trading course there. There is a trading course that I released as well that has an introductory price that is going to go up on Monday. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out now before the prices go up to their normal price. Also, make sure you sign up for the free email list there because that's how I get in contact with you. I'm working on something where I have the ability to share my algorithms and things that I'm thinking about the market. So, again, make sure you sign up for that to get that as well. Now, without further ado, we're going to get right into it here because, again, we have monthly charts and weekly charts. So there's going to be a lot to go through. So let's get into it. I'm just looking for the button, which is right here. Perfect. So we're going to focus on the monthly charts, but then zoom into the weekly charts as we deem necessary. And we're always, as always, we're going to start here with Bitcoin. As you see me look over here, this is where I have my notes. Some people are always interested kind of what these look like. So these are just the notes that I jot down for myself when I'm going through my charts every week. And then every day, I just have a little notepad like this, and I refer to that when the trading day comes as well. So with crypto, I wanted to kind of highlight here that this is essentially just a Bitcoin or an Ethereum rally. These two are very, very strong. Ethereum is getting close to these prior highs, which would be all-time highs, not quite there. If we go to Bitcoin, it broke these prior highs and then just been hanging out in this zone, looking kind of bull flaggy. You can see I have some alerts here set. If we start to coil up from here, that looks like an interesting look there on Bitcoin. But if you go under the hood, it seems like a lot of the rest of them aren't really participating. So if you go to Cardano, that's rolled over nowhere near these highs right here. That's always going to be the reference point when I'm going through these, is let's see how close they got to their all-time highs where Bitcoin broke. Nothing else really did. If we go flow, right, that's way down. We go mana, even Litecoin and Ripple, which are two bigger names, nowhere near their all-time highs. Ripple has to 4x to get to its all-time highs, and Litecoin's not much better. And these aren't, little tiny altcoins. These are big names as well. And yeah, we have $400, so over a 4x for Litecoin to get its all-time highs. Then you look at Bitcoin, and then that's at all-time highs. Then you look at Ethereum, and that's close to all-time highs. That just makes it simple for me. If I'm going to be buying crypto, these are what I'm going to focus on. If these tops fail and start to push lower and I want to find things to short, I'm going to short the ones that haven't been able to participate. The only other one that I'm seeing that has been doing okay is this Solana, where when it broke through the anchored view out from all-time highs, did well. Holding near all-time highs, still has a pretty long way to go on a percentage basis, but better than all of these other kind of altcoins that I've taken a look at. Now into the dollar, we can take a look at DXY. We were talking about this level for the longest time and potentially a target down here at this level. We hit that. This month was kind of a complete reversal. If we go down to the weekly chart of the dollar, really not much happened this week. We had an inside week and then we had a little bit of a choppy week. So wouldn't be shocked again to see some continuation lower, at least to test this area right here. But again, it's just nothing really happened on the weekly chart. But on the monthly chart, it's a pretty clean reversal off this zone. So I would be shocked if we didn't see, even maybe one more month lower uh, to maybe come to this area or even to come close. But then if we reverse from there, that's a whole nother can of worms we'll look at later. Aussie CAD is very interesting. where we have the anchored view app from this high right here. We came up and tagged this. The reason I like to play Aussie CAD is they're both two petro currencies, so the price of oil isn't going to affect these. It's going to be more of just the interrelationship between interest rates and all that boring stuff. But that anchored view app is testing right there. If we go into a weekly chart, we can see we tagged it and then backed off, and then we put in this little inside kind of topping tail week as well. So stocking this one next week for a push lower there on Aussie CAD. Euro, pound, trying to break these lows right here. You can see a bottoming tail, so this one theoretically could have failed to break these lows and continue higher. So I like to watch this one. This one I like to trade just because of its choppy nature. I trade it in that way, knowing that I'm not looking for massive moves one way or the other. I'm looking just to take ranges there. On the monthly chart of this one, again, you can see it still looks like it may be trying to roll over here, which would mean strength in the pound or a little bit of weakness in the euro. Uh, The franc, right? Franc looks interesting. Back up to this zone right here, which is a prior high here, and then a big reversal month. So if we go into the weekly chart of dollar franc, you can see we keep tagging up against this high, and then we failed with a big down week as well. So, any sort of play I can find on dollar franc, I like the look of that to the short side. And then we just got to talk a little bit about the yen. So the yen on the monthly chart looks amazing. Came down and touched these prior lows, bounced just furiously. If we look at it on, versus the Aussie, if we look at the yen versus the pound, it looks really strong. However, I am very wary to take any of this to the long side simply because the Bank of Japan has said we are not going to let our currency go much lower, which would mean these charts going much higher. So even though I had just a comment saying these charts look great, and I don't see you mentioning them very much, well, that's why I'm not really super interested in trading against a bank that's made it clear that they're drawing a line in the sand and they're going to push prices in the other direction. So for me, just no trade. You just move on to other currencies like the ones that I've talked about there. Now, gold and silver are kind of interesting. So monthly chart, we now have one giant topping tail. Let's just get rid of these. We have one giant topping tail and we have two giant topping tails on the monthly chart. So we have tried now twice to break to this 24 2500 area, and we put in these big topping tails after this monster breakout. This is starting to look a little bit toppy to me. If we go into the weekly chart, you can see we broke this high earlier in the week and then we failed last week, and then this week, right, just some continuation there. Same kind of thing on silver. Silver looked amazing on the monthly chart here. It tried to get over these prior highs right here, did make an all-time closing high, but put in that topping tail. So I wonder if this is kind of setting up to be a failed breakout. Same thing, two topping tails here on the weekly chart, and just seeing some signs in precious metals that it could be looking a little bit toppy. I was looking at the commitment of traders report data. It looks like everybody is long gold and everyone's long silver. So could be a liquidation flush down on some names like this. Now, without further ado, let's get into stocks here. I'm going to put a weekly chart over here. And I'm going to put a monthly chart here. So I'm going to have both charts set up and good to go. And we're just going to go through some ETFs that I'm watching. I can move myself so you guys can see that monthly chart. So I want to talk a little bit about the SPY versus the Dow. So big push down on the SPY and a big bottoming tail. And you're going to see this a lot when we look at the weekly chart. And that's just because of this insanity that happened on Friday. I was talking about this zone right here and saying, this area, this line that I draw, I think this is the line in the sand. For me, that's very important that we defend that line if we push down when we close on this day. I'm like, I need to see this reclaimed soon in order to be able to take that trade off of that. It looked very, very ugly, and then about halfway through the day on Friday, just ripped up into everyone's face there. So what I'm looking at there, but if I compare that to the Dow broke down hard, had a very nice bounce as well, but still under a lot of overhead resistance. So kind of wanted to point that out. Really, I think when I look at something like this looks to me like a bear trap. Everybody was probably watching this zone, and we broke down under it, and we continued. People probably loaded in short, and then they had a face ripper. So, looking at what I'm seeing with Bitcoin, that's looking strong, and all of these other names, the dollar index looks like it could be pulling dead back. This is all strong stuff for the US stock market, which is why I start in those other sectors and then go over to stocks, because it looks like we could get some continuation off this, in my opinion. If we go to the monthly chart on this one, right? Just another, we pulled back for 1 month and then ripped. It kind of looks like we made what we saw here, where we had a little bit of a pullback after a really strong move, and then we still ripped up for 2 months before things got bad. Not saying it's only going to be 2 months, just saying that that pattern looks a little bit strong to me. So just some things I want to take a look at, some under the hood ETFs. We have XLE. We have these prior highs at 93. We've been pulling back into them. I've been mentioning this for a long time. Put in a nice bounce there on Friday with everything else. An XLE also is the anchored VWAP from this major low right here. So a lot of things showing us that we could be looking kind of strong in the energy sector. And zooming in a little bit more, CRAK, which is just an oil refiner ETF, is pulling back into the breakout area here on the weekly chart. So for me, when I'm doing my scanning, if I see an oil refiner, I'm going to be interested because I do want to add some exposure over there. I wanted to show Berkby, nice weekly chart, just chopping around sideways. Monthly chart kind of looks the same as the SPY, but the weekly chart, nice looking bull flag here. And then, take that and compare it to Arc, where Arc looked awful. Everything else I've showed you so far had a nice bottoming tail and reversal. Arc just looks like it completely is falling apart here and breaking down, just showing that these type of stocks that don't make any money and don't have any real prospects that people are hoping grow in the future are out of favor, where stuff that Warren Buffett would own with cash flow and all of this, they remain to be king there. MOO. So MOO, if we go to the monthly chart here, we have MOO, which is just a agriculture ETF. Obviously a very clever symbol here for this ag ETF. Coming back into this prior high from 2020 before the pandemic, pulling into that zone right there could be an area of support. So start to look at some ag things if we hold that zone. URA, nice monthly close, choppy on the lower time frames, but on the monthly chart, it still looks like it's kind of completing this cup and handle. Uranium, again, just looks really, really strong here as well. COPX, so this is copper miners, could be looking a little bit like what we were mentioning there in precious metals, right? If we go right here, could be big topping tail and then a push lower in through there. So if this is a failed breakout on the monthly chart, which looks a little bit more prominent on the weekly chart, we could get a little bit of a reversal here in copper. That would correspond with the other ones that I'm looking at as well. Last but not least, from the sectors, before we go into some individual stock names, solar, right? I've been drawing this out. I've mentioned it a few times in my video. These prior highs from 2020, right? Just remember that other chart that I just showed you for the MOO, the prior highs from 2020 came into play. We had a nice bounce here off solar. The monthly chart looks great, right? You can see where I drew this zone. It was an area back here, and it was an area right here, and we've come down and tested, and we have a nice kind of a bullish engulfing monthly candle there as well. So very interested in solar names if they end up showing something to zoom in later. So now let's look at some individual names. We'll go to the daily chart for here. Now remember, for now, I'm just giving you some of the names that come from these algorithms that I run. How I generate these names is using back testing and systematic kind of trading, and then using trade ideas here to find the ones that meet that criteria and then sharing those with you guys as well. So if you're interested in trade ideas, again, go to StatsEdgeTrading.com. I have a discount code for you there. There'll also be a link in the description there as well. If you're interested in potentially getting the output of these algos just emailed to you, go to StatsEdgeTrading.com, sign up for the Substack there. A couple things from only one thing actually from the breakout algo, and that might be because the market is pulling back a little bit. So this breakout algo might not be as kind of shooting out prominent names, but it's this ADP, Air Products and Chemicals. Technically, a breakout of this little base right here on Friday. So you can see the relative strength, at least in the short term, versus the SPY that we just showed, and a nice little pop there as well. So these pullback algos, or these symbols, are from a pullback algo that's essentially looking for stocks that are pulling into major AVWAPs and are demonstrating some support there. So ACLS, you can see the monthly chart here is phenomenal. The weekly chart came into this anchored VWAP and bounced. Just watching this kind of clear zone around 116 or so on this name. PCAR, PCAR. This one you got to go out a bit. But again, you can see the great monthly chart here at $144. If I zoom out, you got to go even further. I think it's like way back here. But yeah, there's an anchored VWAP that held right here, and it held right here, and a nice little reversal candle. So this is almost just like playing this support zone right here to see if we can get some continuation. RNG, which is Ring Central, they make the doorbells and all of that. If we anchor it to this major low, you see we came in, we tagged that on Friday, and then we reversed. The thing I like about these plays is I'm looking for some sort of a trend on the daily chart, and I'm looking to see if I can grab a really low risk entry. And if the trend continues, my risk is, right down here, and my reward is potentially way up here. So just stacking those odds in my favor. Last is TWST, and TWST kind of looks the same as Ring here, in which you can see it's tagging the low from this anchored VWAP level right there. I really like the look of this one. And also TWST has an 18% short float. So again, I just love these plays because I'm looking to get involved right around here. I am wrong right around here, and I'm targeting at least right around there. And if we get more than that, I can look for an extension move higher. So that is my reward, and that is my risk. So I just know that if I do this over and over again, even if I have a relatively low win rate with them, they'll be fantastic. So thank you guys for coming by. A little bit of a long one, but we had both the monthly charts and the weekly charts to go through. Again, go to StatsEdgeTrading.com. If you've made it this long, the 18 minutes or so into this analysis, please give a like, a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. And go to StatsEdgeTrading.com, sign up for the free email list, and I will talk to you guys soon.